Nice spare! Welcome to the Analog Sticks podcast, where this week we're trying to figure out why everybody loves Wii Sports. Let's go!
Let's go!
Hello and welcome to Analog Sticks. My name is Rusty, his name is Cody, and today we're going to try to answer the most important question you've certainly been pondering for weeks on end.
Weeks on end. I tell you, it's been a crazy few weeks. The election is on the 8th, and things are seeming pretty scary. With all that going on, for me personally, I've been constantly asking myself just this one thing. Why is Wii Sports so good?
Dude, why does everybody love Wii Sports? It's like, you ask anybody between the ages of 3 and 90, and they love Wii Sports. But before we answer that pressing question that everybody must know the answer to, Cody, how are you doing today?
I'm keeping up. I'm coming to the end of my semester. In my degree, it's very project-based. So instead of worrying about final tests at the end, now is kind of my crunch time. I'm trying to get all my projects wrapped up so I can put them in nice little portfolios and whatnot. But I mean, that's just been me. How about you?
I'm doing all right. I'm not pressing, and I'm not worried if anybody's trying to don't stop me now or whatever. But I'm also pressing a little bit, actually. I may have said that I'm not. I don't know. But my wedding is in like 14 days or like
dude.
15 days. Dude, we are in the thick of it. Like, we had all the big stuff done months ago, but now it's like, oh, we still have all this little stuff to do. And it's like, we have to go through the script for the ceremony and pick out all the tiny little songs for every little moment and everything. It's stressful. But nonetheless, we're here to reduce that a little bit and talk about some Wii Sports.
Just the simple things.
And Wii Sports, I think it can qualify as simple yet still complex in the way that it makes us all think. That's a lie. But nonetheless, Cody, I would love to know, well, first of all, I'd love to know why Wii Sports is so phenomenal. I mean, if you think about it, it's one of the most well-received games of all time. Like I was saying earlier, everybody has some kind of experience with Wii Sports. It was massive. But Cody, before we get into all that, what were your experiences with this Wii Pack-In game?
So growing up, our family never owned a Wii. So my own experiences were going to other people's houses and playing it. And it was always super fun. It was one of those things where I don't think I ever went to someone's house just to be like, oh yeah, we're playing Wii Sports tonight. But if I was at someone's house and someone suggested Wii Sports, we're all playing it right away. No questions.
That's generally how that goes. I personally, you told me this right before we started recording that you never had a Wii growing up. You got one later in life when somebody was moving on from their Wii. I was blown away that you were one of the 3 households in America that didn't have a Wii. That's
what
crazy.
Can I say? My parents, they got the Xbox for us. That's what my brother was into. So that's what we had. And we're like one console per generation. That's how it was.
You were a Kinect kid. I mean, that's how it should be. I was a Nintendo through and through fanboy until I thought it was too childish, and I'm like, I need the PS3, angsty. Except I wasn't really angsty. I just wanted to play Call of Duty with my friends because that's what they were moving on to, and I didn't want to get left in the dust.
Yeah.
But personally, like I was saying, we were one of the all but 3 families that did have a Wii in the house. And Wii Sports was around. Between myself, my younger sister, my mother, and my father, we probably put hundreds of thousands of hours into Wii Sports. Maybe not hundreds of thousands, that's a lot. But we put a shitload of time into Wii Sports.
Instead of working, we played Wii Sports.
I'm trying to think. My family, we always had people at the house. Every Friday, or we would be out somewhere. Very social. Like our neighborhood, we had friends around the house where we would all come over and hang out and do stuff. And we were like the first people that got a Wii. So people would come over and play Wii Sports. And it would be like my dad's friends, my mom's friends, my sister's friends, all just playing Wii Sports on a Friday night. I mean, I'm going to go story time for one second. My dad was trying to grind for the sparkle ball in bowling, which is where you, like, get the max skill level. We'll get
Oh
into the
yeah.
details of it in a little bit. And one of his friends he was playing with was like, all right, this is my last game. I'm going home. Held down the power button on the controller because he thought it would turn off his controller. Turned
Mhm.
off the console. My dad was livid. I remember that, but it was so cool. Anyways, like I was saying, all but 3 households in America had the Wii. So I feel like a lot of people, not even just America, Europe, Japan, Australia maybe, all
Mhm.
had access to Wii Sports, and basically everybody knows what it is. I mean, there's reasons for this as well. It's the number one selling Wii game of all time. It's ahead of Mario Kart, and in third place, Wii Sports Resort. But that's probably just because it was a pack-in game. I
Yeah.
mean, like I was saying, though, Wii Sports Resort, though, wasn't a pack-in game, and it was only outsold by Mario Kart Wii, its predecessor. I can't talk. But the Wii Motion Plus was also a pack-in there, but that doesn't really matter. These games, Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort, which we may cover at a later time, were massive. I mean, I think Wii Sports was a large reason that the Wii sold so well. It sold like almost 100 million copies, and of those, 80-90% had Wii Sports on them, and it's absurd the way that works. I love it.
Just a quick question for you. Do you think Wii Sports was as big as it was because it was a pack-in game, or because it was just a good game?
I think the fact that it was a pack-in game definitely helped. I don't know that it was the sole reason. I'm willing to bet you that it wasn't the sole reason. I think it was one of those things that transcended gaming. It became commonplace in the world. I mean, that's why it was so popular, obviously. But I think the
Yeah.
fact that it's like you get the Wii and you can play Wii Sports on it was like the big selling point, because it already comes with a game that everybody wanted, and it was like the shiny new console at the time too. And we're going to get into the reasons why people wanted to play Wii Sports in a little bit, but as far as that goes, with it being a pack-in game, I think that it certainly helped its numbers, but
Mhm.
it also helped the Wii's numbers in some ways, if that makes sense.
Oh, that makes sense. Like it wasn't the buying the Wii got you Wii Sports. In some cases, people just wanted Wii Sports, and so they bought the Wii for the pack-in game. That
Yes,
makes sense.
exactly.
Yeah.
What's the term? Mutualistic relationship in animals, like the bird that eats the bugs off the rhinos or whatever.
Yeah.
That's Wii Sports and Wii Sport and the Wii.
Yeah, like
That's what it is.
I feel like a pack-in game doesn't have to be good, right? It for some consoles, it was just the little bonus to get you to play something when you got the console. I
Hmm.
think Nintendo has a pretty good track record with pack-in games, though. They're usually good at putting in the right one. And
Yeah, I
this is
mean,
one of those cases where it was more than just a tech demo. You know, it was game was part of why you bought the Wii.
yeah, you're 100% right. Just because it was a pack-in game doesn't mean people were going to automatically like it and want to play
Hmm.
it. Not every pack-in game is good, and yet people still love and treasure this game. And I mean, while Nintendo does have a good track record with bundling games well or making good tech demos, this one transcended all of that. I mean, people didn't view it as a tech demo. They viewed it as a reason to buy the Wii, and the Wii was a console to get because it had Wii Sports and vice
Yeah.
versa. But really what I want to know, and the reason we're all here today, is why did everybody like Wii Sports? And I think personally it can be boiled down into like 4 main reasons. It is very simple. It's super duper easy to explain. More importantly than all that, it's fun. And lastly, it's just the ultimate party game or living room multiplayer experience.
Yeah.
Would you agree with me there?
I totally agree. I think Wii Sports is one of those games that it was so well done that it's easy to take for granted the reasons why it became as popular as it was, you know?
Hmm. It's incredible. I mean, like you said, people took for granted how good it was because it is such a simple experience. I mean, looking back, it's a Wii tech demo. We'll get into more of like the philosophy and design behind that. But they took a simple game that really well displayed what the console was all about.
Hmm.
They made it fun, and they took a medium that everybody already knows in the form of sports and just said, yeah, you know how to bowl? All you do with this is you make the motion like you're bowling, and instead of letting go of the remote, you just let go of the B button on the back.
Yeah.
That's how you play Wii Bowling. I mean, like, yeah, you can get into the little nitty gritty. Oh, you can move a little bit to the left and right with the D-pad. That's it. That is the most complex explanation of Wii Sports Bowling you'll ever get. And I mean, the baseball, throwing motion, swinging motion, Golf, swing, boxing, you punch like you're gonna lose your fucking head if you don't. It's
Yeah.
it's so easy,
I remember
but it's still immersive.
every boxing match would just devolve into moving your hands as fast as you can, like it's some kind of anime battle.
Dude. My family, we had a thing, we had a strategy. I don't know if this was only within my family or like the whole conglomerate neighborhood group that I was mentioning earlier, but we had a thing. You had to do the hammers when you were boxing. I'm making the motion now. That's why I sound exasperated. But like literally, you would just like swing like you're swinging hammers with both of your arms as fast as you could. And that was how you won Wii boxing. I don't know how effective it actually was. I don't know if it made any difference, but that was the thing.
I wanna keep going on this little tangent. My strategy, I think, was a little scientific. I figured that what really counted was just the motion itself, not how far the motion went. So for me, the most effective way to do it was just the little tiniest nudges for each punch. But if you did those small enough, you could do a whole bunch in a short amount of time. So as long as you're the guy punching faster, then eventually you'll win. At least that was my thinking. I don't know.
Cody's just making like vibrations and trembling with both the nunchuck and Wiimote in hand.
I am shaking and quaking.
It's so good. And I mean, that's another thing. You put it in front of anybody who can move their arms and they can understand that concept. And guess what? It's fun because you're trying to beat somebody else doing the same thing. One thing that I don't think gets talked about is it feels fair. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't feel like, oh, nobody can, only I can win this. Like, yeah, it felt like there were people who were certainly better than others and whatnot, but it was always like, regardless of your skill level, anybody can win, especially in the boxing, for instance. With golf and maybe bowling, it might be a little bit more precise, but it's one of those things, everybody can play it, and you're not going to suck when you first start, which is honestly phenomenal, because think of how many video games you see a kid pick up where they don't suck right out of the gate.
Oh yeah, I feel like if you don't get into video games as a kid, it's hard to do that as an adult, just because every game has on that learning curve when you start out. If you didn't grow up, uh, getting used to starting with that learning curve, then sports, not not sports, video games kind of have a wall for a lot of people between wanting to start and actually playing a game.
Oh yeah, this was a point we kind of made a couple weeks ago that I'm going to bounce back on when we were talking about Minecraft and how old folks' homes are going to be really cool in 50 years or 30 years or whenever it is, because people will have opened themselves up to video games beforehand. Like nowadays, most elderly people, the Wii is about it because it's the same thing. The barrier of entry, if you will, is very low. With most games, anything you got to put a real controller in your hand, like a PlayStation controller or a GameCube controller, for instance. You have to learn what every button does, where every button is, and it's a little bit tougher to just digest for an average person without that experience. In 30 years, like I'm saying, old folks' homes are probably going to be a little bit more open to video games because we all grew up with them. Whereas nowadays, that's not necessarily the case, except for the Wii, which I feel like should have been in old folks' homes if it wasn't already.
Feel like I've been to a couple old folks' homes. I've seen one before. Even my grandma has a Wii, and her video game knowledge goes to Farmville, and that is it.
Good old Farmville. All those good Facebook. Are they Flash games? I don't know. The embedded Facebook games. That's iconic.
Dude,
Not
for
as
me,
iconic as Wii Sports.
no, not at all. Personally, I would put Wii Sports in my head. I categorize it closer to karaoke than to like couch video games.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think that's kind of one of those things that makes it the ultimate party game. Like if you were to bring out a karaoke machine at a large party, yeah, nobody likes karaoke. I'm not going to sing. I'm not good. But then you get 2 drinks in you, and all of a sudden you're singing Don't Stop Believing, swinging back and forth with 3 of your best friends that you just met. And that's kind of the same effect Wii Sports has. Oh, that's dumb. If I wanted
Except
to
you
go
don't even
bowling,
have
I'd
to
just go to the
drink.
bowling alley. You were saying, sorry.
Oh, I already said what I said.
Oh,
It's like with karaoke, you gotta drink a little bit in order to feel ready to do that. Wii Sports, you can do that stuff sober.
yeah, you very much could. I have done it before, but I'm not going to tonight when we record the footage, which I'm looking forward to.
I like how you're saying it like, yeah, you can play sober.
I mean, my dad and his friends, they probably weren't. Dad, shout out to you. I know you're listening. Okay, but back on this little tangent. I mean, the instructions to the game are simple. It's very fun in the sense that it feels fair and anybody can pick up and play it. And there is kind of that natural competition. Everybody comes out a winner or a loser. And it's just kind of one of those things. It's so nice. It does everything right. In my opinion, it is the ultimate tech demo. But as far as tech demos go, I think this is about as well designed as it could be. Cody, I know you probably have some stuff to say on the design of it as a tech demo.
Yeah, I think tech demos in general, and we were trying to think of some examples before we started recording, and one thing I noticed is that a lot of tech demos tend to be pretty good in terms of gameplay because they're so focused on developing that gameplay. It's kind of like Nintendo's own philosophy of good gameplay coming first, with story and graphics following after. Um, like Portal, started out as a sort of tech demo, just trying to figure out if in a computer environment you could set up all those different travel or spawn points. It's another example we thought of in terms of tech demos.
I don't think we said this, but when you were talking about this, where Nintendo put the good gameplay first and then the story and graphics later, I think Mario 64 qualifies as a tech demo in the
That's
sense that
right.
it was the first ever 3D game, and Nintendo, I don't know who it was probably Miyamoto or somebody along those lines in interviews and whatnot, stated that the main priority was not to accustom people to a 3D world, which was the goal. It was to get people used to 3D gaming or to build a really cool, engaging story with awesome new characters. It was to make it feel good to run around in a 3D world. And they achieved that with Mario 64, and that was their main goal. It wasn't to make the most stunning and amazing levels that will stand up for years on end. It was to make a fun game to play. And with Wii Sports, I think Nintendo did that just as well as they did Mario 64, albeit it's a very different controller leading to a very different game.
Yeah,
But there have been a ton of great tech demos.
that
Luigi's
almost
Mansion.
that almost makes me think this is super off topic. I am so glad that it was Nintendo that really came out the gate with 3D games. Because I can see a situation where some other game company tries to do 3D first, but they just
Sonic
don't
Adventure.
do it as well, and so it delays 3D gaming for years,
Yeah, if Sonic Adventure was our first 3D game, we would now be playing all 3D games.
We'd still be playing 2D games.
Speaking of, this is topical, almost
Uh-huh.
as topical as this question everybody's been wondering. I watched some gameplay footage for Sonic Frontiers.
Mhm.
I was excited for it, but now I'm not because they
Oh
still have the same
no.
like stages, and I'm like, 3D Sonic's never controlled well, and it's not gonna control well. But that's irrelevant. We're talking about Wii Sports.
Yeah.
As far as what makes it a good tech demo, though, like we were saying, I mean, it does everything it set out to do, and it does it very well. It shows off the Wii's functionality flawlessly. It has the pointer controls and the menuing, which are marginal, whatever. But the main thing is the motion. You're making the motion of bowling, and you're making the motion of swinging a golf club or a baseball bat, or you're making the hammer motions, and it's like punching, I guess, with limited button usage. It's more so reliant on that motion control that kind of led to the success of this fun control scheme and the Wii. But unfortunately, it wasn't necessarily the best for hardcore gamers, if you will.
Mm-mm.
And now, Cody, I think you, being an Xbox not Wii child, kind of has something to say about this. What do you think was the biggest drawback of Wii Sports? Do you think it set back Nintendo at all in the sense that they focus more so on the motion controls, or do you think that this was beneficial for them to grow, to transcend video game audiences as opposed to making better games?
Man, you set me up just right. We're talking about how I think it's hard to talk about the bad parts of it because there just aren't that many. But I did find myself a lot as a kid wishing there was more to it. Like with all the different strategies I'm sure everyone came up with for bowling, right? Or even with baseball, it was always more simple than I would have wanted. If there was some kind of version of Wii Sports that was catered towards uh, more gamers than casual gamers, I think it'd be very fun to have more involved controls, more control over the outcome of what you're trying to do. I think that would make it a little bit more competitive, you know? Because like with bowling, it's such a simple motion that even the kids could beat their parents sometimes, which still feels fun and is fair. But you definitely could have a setup where if you know the game well enough and the controls, you might be able to master it and consistently beat people based on your own skills with that game. Did any of that
100%.
make sense?
Yeah, no, I'm following you. That makes a lot of sense. You want like a Wii Sports Plus, for instance, where it's like, yeah, it's the core Wii Sports that you know and love, but now it's more advanced in the way that you actually have to maybe press buttons or something, for instance, to make it more fleshed out than it already is, which I think could be a good thing if they were to go that route. Although Wii Sports Club on the Wii U did not necessarily do well. And with Wii Sports Resort, they still kind of stuck to keep it simple, stupid, and it worked. It worked. From a business perspective, Wii Sports is one of the greatest successes of all time. I will go as far as to say that. Because,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you look at Nintendo's console history, their track record, the Nintendo Entertainment System was the first video game console that everybody wanted to have in their home. And the Super Nintendo followed that up almost as well as it possibly could. And then after that, they had the Nintendo 64, which was definitely more difficult to stomach. It wasn't as easy to pick up as 2 buttons and a D-pad, or 4 buttons, a D-pad, and shoulder buttons. It was a full 3D console, and a lot of people couldn't necessarily stomach that for the first time. So it obviously had less sales. But then they followed up with the GameCube, which was kind of just staying true to the course, whatever you want to call it in that sense. And it didn't do well financially. I mean, it did better than the Wii U, but
The
that's the
GameCube,
discussion for another
that was
time.
one for the gamers.
The GameCube is the best console of all time.
Oh,
Fight
yeah.
me. But the Wii, they said, okay, well, we can't do the traditional games as well as PlayStation is. Because at the time, the PlayStation 2, which is still the best-selling home console of all time, blew them out of the water. And then
Yeah.
they came along with the Wii, like, we've got to do something different that makes us stand out. And they did that with the Wii. They're like, what's something that everybody understands? Sports.
I really like that narrative of once other consoles kind of caught up to Nintendo and were doing some parts of their game making better than them in terms of, I don't know, just that gaming experience of having a story, of a game looking good. I really think Nintendo did the right thing in, rather than trying to directly compete with Sony and Xbox, they rather decided that they're going to try to carve their own path and make their own way within the gaming industry. And even now, that's definitely the right decision for them.
Props to them. I mean, even the marketing of the Japanese guys in suits showing up to houses in
Oh,
America.
that was so
We would
good.
like to play.
Mhm.
That was racist. I'm sorry.
No, I liked it.
I tried not to go full accent, but I did half of it, and it felt really rude. But nonetheless, there are a couple more things I really wanted to touch on about Wii Sports, if we're moving on from that whole marketing tangent, if you will. And that's another thing that kind of dealt with marketing. The plastic garbage that everybody had to go with Wii Sports. Now, you didn't have a Wii growing up, but I have talked to multiple people this week in anticipation of recording this episode and asking them kind of, what is it about Wii Sports that you like? What is it about Wii Sports that you remember? What is it about Wii Sports that you didn't like? And
Yeah.
one thing that I was surprised to hear as many people talk about as they did was like, oh, it was super immersive, which marginal. It was just, I get to do the thing the character's doing, and that was really cool. But people kept bringing up the plastic garbage, the Wii Sports attachments, the little baseball you stick your remote in the handle of, or the golf club you stick your remote in the handle of, or the tennis racket you stick the remote in your handle of.
Wait, those are
First
real
mention of
things?
tennis. Yes, yeah, you can check it out. And one thing that actually blew my mind, because I remembered these, and when people said them, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess they were around. My fiance told me that her grandmother, one of them, I don't know which side it was, that doesn't matter, semantics. One of them had the Wii Sports attachments with fans built in to fan you while you're playing Wii Sports. Because, you know, you got to get that grind on, you got to get that sweat in, blood, sweat, and tears into bowling.
That's amazing. There's got to be some video out there where people just go through all the different attachments that have been made.
I think Scott the Woz did something a while back on plastic garbage associated with the Wii, but it's one of those things that's just, there's so much. I mean, this is off of Wii Sports, but I remember having a Twilight Princess branded sword and shield for the nunchuck and Wiimote. That was the coolest thing ever. It was
The
so cool.
the attachments I definitely remember from my experience not owning one. Everyone seemed to have the wheel. Was the big
The
one
Wii
for
Wheel.
me. Hmm?
The Wii Wheel.
The
It's
Wii
iconic.
Wheeler, yeah. And then the other one was the Wii gun attachment. I know a few people had those.
There were multiple different Wii guns. We're going off on this little tangent, bite me. But there were multiple Wii guns, and I don't know if you knew this before today when we first started talking. There were
Mhm.
multiple Wii pack-in titles. There was obviously Wii Sports, which was the main one. That's what everybody got. Later on,
Yeah.
they started packing in Wii Sports and stuff like that with some of the ones towards the end of the console's life. But at launch, you could get Wii Sports, or since Twilight Princess was a launch title, you couldn't get that with the bundle, but you could get Link's crossbow training, which used the exact same
The
character models and enemies, but it came with like the Nintendo Zapper or whatever, the Wii Zapper. That's what it's called. Oh my god, I feel so good that I just found that.
Zapper. Oh,
The
like the
NES
old duck
Zapper.
hunt kind of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. The Wii Zapper. You could get it with Link's crossbow training, which is just an on rails point and shoot. It's Duck Hunt modern with
If
Zelda.
I don't own one, but if I were ever to own a firearm, I've seen one online that was like a Glock, customized to look like the Zapper. That would be a fun one to
That's
have.
hilarious. That's so good. Oh my gosh. See, the Wii and Nintendo transcend society in many ways other than just making games.
I looked up Wii accessories because I just needed to see all this. And there's a I'll send the picture to this right now. This one is excessive. Here, I'll send
Oh
you the
gosh,
link
we're looking
address.
at the
You can
most
react
extra
to it
Wii
live.
accessory ever. I'm putting it on the screen. Oh my god, it's loading. Okay, I feel like I've seen this before.
It's
Why?
a plastic accessory.
That's like a
It's
full pistol.
it's a Wii gun that actually looks like a gun, but it fits the Wiimote in it. That's
And the nunchuck for no reason.
in its own little sidecar, like the ones you see on a motorcycle.
Why would the nunchuck have a sidecar? Why wouldn't they just put it in the handle of the gun so you could use it like, I don't know, Jesus. Like, I feel like the Z button was like a perfect trigger for the gun, and I think on the Wii Zapper it was. But why didn't they do that here? It's, this is gross. I love it and I hate it. But back on Wii Sports, I do kind of want to touch on the actual design of the sports, and obviously they kept it simple, but what do they do right? What do they do wrong with
Yeah.
each individual sport? I don't know how familiar you are with each individual sport, but we'll go down the list. We'll start with tennis. Now,
All right.
the way tennis controls is that you either have doubles or singles. You can have two people on the same team, one person controlling two people, and their motion is synced. But basically, it's just you waggle, your character moves. What do you think they did right with tennis?
Um, and
Obviously, they made it tennis, which was a good start.
yeah, the that that pressure you would feel whenever a game got really intense and your character had to really run over to get the ball, and you would have that one wild swing of desperation trying to get it to the other side. Um, they did such a good job at bringing those moments out, and I think part of it is how they made it so you don't have to worry about where your characters are. That kind of happens for you unless the ball is way out. Instead of focusing on just the swing, I think that lets you engage with it a lot more because you don't have to worry about too many things.
It controls really well, like you're saying. You don't have to move the characters around on the screen, which could be nice for like a Wii Sports Advance if we were talking something like that, like we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and like
But I think
Mario
the audio
Tennis does
design,
that, right?
yeah, Mario Tennis, you actually have to move the character to the ball and then you can hit it. And it works. It functions really well. But one thing that I think goes underappreciated, and when you said like the diving, like last swing to try to barely pop it over the net, the little bloop, oh, will he get it? Won't he get it? The crowd reaction, the audio design of the
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's so good. And also, if we're talking audio design, that tennis sound effect, I'm inserting it here, is so good.
Oh, it's satisfying as hell.
So good.
You're right
It's
though.
so
I didn't
good.
even think about that. The crowd audio really does up the ante when they're all acting as if you guys are like the top players in the world about to beat a world record or something.
Yeah, you're at Wimbledon.
Yeah.
Yep, Wii Tennis successfully made Wimbledon Simulator. So that's what they did right. They made it feel obviously simple, which was the goal. They made it show off the Wii controls. But what are some changes you think they could make to do a little bit better or make it more simple to not more simple, it's very simple, but maybe more consumable or I mean all in all just better. What would you do to make Wii Tennis better?
I don't even know if I could answer that. Um,
I have one
uh,
gripe.
you do?
Just front hand backhand. Like it's
Give it
I
to
don't think
me.
that's that big of an ask. I don't think that would break immersion. I think that's simple enough to teach anybody. If you swing from your left side, it's a backhand. If you swing from your right hand, it's a front hand. I'm left-handed, so that's backwards, and I was trying to do that in my head and I think I got it right. But just something that simple I think could make it all that much better and more immersive. Although I could see how people get frustrated with it, but that's for the people who are making the game to figure out, not me.
Yeah, so you're saying there should be a difference between front hand and backhand?
Yeah, like if you reach across your body and then swing versus if you just stick your arm out and swing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. And I feel like they do this with the serve. I think there's a timing window where if you hit the ball at a certain time, it goes like super duper fast and you get like a trail on it. Why not have that
Also,
for every hit? I don't know.
waggling your controller crazily without any kind of strategy should automatically make you miss the ball. I would
Although I
always
do
get
love
so
the way
upset.
that
Like
looks.
it's fun to just wave the remote around, willy nilly. But when it starts to get really serious and we're all playing like we're playing tennis, it always pissed me off when you had the one person who would just shake it as hard as they could and then beat everybody.
Hey, it's a strategy, man. They wanted you to do that. But as for tennis, all in all, rate it out of 7. What would you rate Wii Tennis?
Tennis, man, that's a go-to. That's a 6 out of 7 for me.
I was gonna say tennis is like the one that I feel like everybody's like, I loved Wii Tennis. Like for me, it's bowling and tennis, honestly.
Yeah.
Moving on to bowling, though. What'd they
Mm.
do right? What'd they do wrong? I'd love to hear this.
What they do right. You can throw the ball backwards into the crowd. That's
That's
very
the best part.
realistic. 10 out of 10. They did that right.
The whole sound effect that I'm playing right now, where the characters like jump and spin around, is so good.
Yeah, that one that we just heard for sure.
Yeah, that you guys just heard that we definitely did too.
They also did the right amount of player input because you can be better than someone else at the bowling because there's an element of keeping your remote level. You're talking about the D-pad, you can adjust it beforehand. So if you learn your own swing, you can adjust for that and get a strike almost every time with some practice.
I agree with you 100%. I think Wii Bowling is honestly the most sophisticated of all the Wii sports. I don't know if that's
Funny
a
enough.
reach. Golf is probably up there too because it's just golf. But like it's got the most intricacies, and if you really want to try to learn it, you can. Wii Sports speed runs are actually really cool because the whole thing is try to bowl as many strikes as you can, and then not a perfect game because you don't want the extra bowling frames. But
Hmm.
it's so cool the way that people have it meticulously laid out. I go 2 clicks to the right, angle, 1 click to the left, spin with my wrist going all the way pronating to the right, and it's a strike 72% of the time or something. And
Yeah.
it's just really cool the way that they gave you that level of input that you can make it work specifically for you, like you're saying. Everybody I knew dating back to when my family would have all the people over, everybody had their own swing. Everybody
Mhm.
had their own layout, their own curve. They had it mastered or whatever. Some people obviously had it down better than others. I remember mine, I wanted it halfway on the second slit to the right, and I would bowl it perfectly straight without like it looked like Cody was throwing it because my wrist would not move.
You just
And
had
I
to
remember I would do
sneak your
like
way into
I
there,
would
huh?
also try to release it at the lowest point of my throw because you can
Hmm.
release at different points too, which is another thing that's really immersive and neat with it. But I would always just like lunge it forward. I wish I could make the motion on video, but I can't. I would always just kind of like let go at like my knee and just push the remote down and forward, almost like a punching motion.
Hmm. I always released too late, and I'd do that thing where the bowling ball goes way up and then just kind of hits the ground and very slowly inches forward, wasting
My
everybody's
favorite's
time.
when you can do the thing where you make the motion and then your character's still moving, but the ball's at the top, and then you let go and the ball shoots forward.
Hmm.
That's a level of I don't even want to call it a bug, but it's a minor flaw that is just charm. It's one of those
It's
things
great.
people look past and they're like, that's neat. Now, what do you think could be improved about bowling? This is what I think is going to be the toughest part of this segment if we're doing this.
Proved about bowling, dude. Bowling is one of the most sublime gaming experiences a person can have. It would be blasphemy for me to even suggest there's anything I could change.
I mean, I'm right there with you between the sound effects, the visuals of it, the immersion, I would call it, of everything that has to do with Wii bowling. It's all so good. The music, it's all so good. And Wii Sports sound design is underrated, and I'm just now realizing this. But the sound of the ball hitting the lane and rolling and the pins shattering, it's all so good. I honestly can't think of any gripes I have with bowling either, so I'm guessing if you were to rate it on a scale of 3, bowling's a 3.
3 out of 3. That's a. I mean, yes.
Prestige.
Out
It's a
of 3 doesn't
prestigious high
sound right.
honor. Okay, well, what is it out of 42?
42.
It's a 42 out of 42. Prestigious.
That's right.
It's the highest honor a game can receive is a 42 out of 42. Moving on to baseball. This is my personal favorite sport. I am a big-time New York Yankees fan. Have it tattooed on my body if you were curious.
I don't know if you
What's
guys.
good about baseball?
There's a lot of posts we put into our videos when we have our faces on. Russ is actually a baseball.
Yeah, I am. I do a lot of editing. I'm really good with graphic design. I'm just bad at making thumbnails.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, sometimes I have to, like, instead of flossing, I just have to go and make sure my laces are clean. It's a bitch.
There's so much to work there.
And I'm still trying to get this rolling stamp off my forehead. It's really tough.
Yeah, it's hard to sit in a chair for him.
That's why Cody's my best friend, because he doesn't have wrists and can't throw
I can't
me.
throw him.
And if he does, it has to be a knuckleball, because you don't have to break your wrist to throw a knuckleball. Speaking of, I think you can throw a knuckleball in Wii Sports. Probably not. I know you can throw fastball, curveball, and, like, change up.
Very fun.
Maybe there's a
Let's
screwball, too?
let's
I don't
talk
know.
about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. What makes Wii Baseball good? Is it good?
For me, I liked playing it. It's weird how I would never say it's not good, but it's like one of the games I played less of. It was super interesting to me how they decided exactly what you're gonna do in Wii Baseball. Because of all the games, that one is it's the most team sport kind of game out of all of them, right? So there's a lot of potentially, like, let's say you're assigned to make this game and Wii Sports Baseball has never been made before. Like, what do you decide to put into it? Is everyone going to have their own position? Do you run around to get the ball? I think it's very interesting the decisions they made into how it's going to look in the Wii, where they kind of bring it down to the simplest motions. I think that's what they did. They focused on the motions involved with baseball. So you pitch, you swing, and then you can also catch. But the catching part is like, from what I remember, you just in whatever position they put you in. Right?
It's not even that. It's more simple. All you do is swing and pitch. And in my opinion, person who's played a lot of MLB The
right.
Show, they took out all the worst parts of a baseball video game and left you with just the fun stuff, although it is a little bare bones for my liking. They took out all the defense and all the base running and all that stuff, which I think makes it a better experience and more consumable, albeit maybe not necessarily better. I think that they do really good at making it something that anybody can pick up and play. There's no, like, in MLB The Show, for instance, you have a little reticle, which is where your bat is going to hit the ball, and you have to move the reticle to where the ball is going to be, and then you can swing. And if the ball's in the reticle and you timed it right, you'll hit the ball. In Wii Sports, you just swing. If your timing's right, go.
Gosh.
And there doesn't feel, in my opinion, with Wii Sports, my biggest gripe with it is it doesn't necessarily feel very skill-oriented, which is the goal of Wii Sports. Anybody can pick it up and play it and succeed, but I would like to have a little control over my launch angle and exit velocity as somebody who's a big baseball aficionado.
Yeah.
But I can see why they didn't do that. They made it simple and consumable, and I think they did a good job of that. Although I personally would like to see it more intricate, but I wouldn't fault anybody for disagreeing with me.
Does the remote vibrate when you hit the ball?
I don't know. I know it makes a noise out of the little speaker on the Wii remote, which
I
is
was
really
I
cool.
just wanted to I was just about to say I want to talk about that. We were mentioning sound design earlier. The whole thing of having the speaker on the Wiimote making noise during these games really brings up the shoot, I already lost the word for it. The immersion aspect of it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's just so cool when you throw the ball, when you make that throwing motion and it goes past your ear, you hear the little whiz of the ball moving, and it's
Yeah. Oh,
it's
dude, and
so cool. And you hear the crack of the bat.
when you hit the ball and the Wiimote itself goes, just feels amazing.
It's so good. And the announcer, home run. I love it. I love everything about Wii Sports. Although I would like to see it more intricate. But if you're rating on a scale of 1 to 6, what is it?
4.
4? I think that's a fair rating. I'd probably go right there with you.
Yeah.
I mean, mine's more nitpicky, but also the fact that it's only 2 players, I feel like that is a necessary decision that they had to make.
Yeah.
But for that party game setting, people are going to lean towards tennis or bowling or even golf instead of baseball. And if people are going to pick a 2-player sport, I think boxing trumps it as well, just because it is more consumable than let's go play a 3-inning baseball game. Howdy ho.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Here,
I think that it's,
quick little
I don't know.
tangent. I think Wii Sports overall could have been improved if instead of an English announcer, it was a Japanese guy with very poor English.
Dude, have you ever seen Japanese baseball highlights? I doubt it because you're not like big into
Mhm.
baseball. The announcers in Japan and even Latin America, any of the Latin American
Oh, I
leagues,
know those guys are
it's
hype.
electric.
Yeah.
They bring so much more energy than a lot of American announcers, and it makes me sad because American announcers, they all went to broadcasting school, and you have to be professional. And here's the 3-2, and it's lined in the air, left field, down for a base hit. Whereas in Mexico or Japan, they're like, and that's a base hit. Oh my God, he's going to second. He's in there. Oh, he's out. It's just,
Yeah, yeah.
that
The
sounded
the
terrible. I
announcers
guarantee it.
in America for some reason announcing is just so formal. Like it's I don't know, they have to have their stats ready. They gotta have the good radio voice. It is nice how
Yeah.
if you watch any Hispanic soccer broadcast, the announcers just sound like another fan.
That's the. I always bring up South Park. It's one of my favorite TV shows of all time. But there's an episode called The Last Mexican where they're playing, I don't know. I think the game is called Texans versus Mexicans, where basically there's a team of kids who are playing the Mexicans and a team playing the Texans, and they're trying to keep them out of the US. It's border patrol. It's a whole big thing on immigration. So
Yeah.
the episode does a really good job at making their point about it and how people overreact about illegal immigrants. It's a whole good thing. Check it out if you're interested. But essentially, Butters gets lost in the woods, and people around town find him, and they think he's a Mexican child. And in turn, he goes back to Mexico, and then he wants to go home to see his amigos, and they make like a whole big thing. This is a big lead up to nothing. The payoff's going to be so minimal, but you guys are listening to it anyways because you're the best. He's in a race against Cartman trying to get back into the US, and they're like doing the whole thing, and they're not calling him Butters, they're calling him Mantequilla, which is Spanish for butters. Well, butter. And the whole thing is he finally gets over the thing and he says base, which is like what they do when they get into
Yeah.
quote unquote Texas, except he actually did it at the actual border. And then the announcer, they cut it to all the people in Mexico listening on the radio. Beso! Beso! And yeah, Wii Sports needs a Latin American or Japanese announcer.
Yes. I also
That was
just
so unnecessary.
I just want the bad accent too. I think it's much more entertaining.
Yeah. Have you another South Park episode, the one where they do the dodgeball tournament? That's another funny one. Won't elaborate.
Was it I can't remember if this was PlayStation. Sorry, I'm messing up my words. I can't remember if this was South Park, just like a thing in general, but PlayStation had this early voice recognition software that I think was in some games where if you wanted to use it in English, you had to put on a Japanese accent for it to work. Otherwise, it wouldn't recognize you.
I am not at all familiar with this, but it sounds hilarious. It reminds me of, this is another TV show. I don't know
uh-huh.
why this is in my brain, but iCarly, they got a lamp from Japan that was supposed to be voice activated, and you had to say lamp in Japanese to activate it.
Yeah, you had to say like ramp instead of lamp.
Yeah, well, a lot of Japanese words, this is a fun fact for those of you who don't know. A lot of words in Japanese are just English words with a Japanese accent.
Yes.
Like milk in Japanese, I'm not even joking, isn't milk, it's milkaru.
Hmm.
And if you go to somebody in Japan and say, "Hey, can I have a glass of milk?" They're going to look at you like, "What?" But if you say, "Can I have a glass of milkaru?" They'll be like, "Oh, yeah, milk." But
Yeah.
Japanese.
Chinese has the
And
same
lamp
thing.
is rampu.
Trying to remember, there's
Funny.
like I think a lot of newer words like computer and refrigerator, stuff like that is just that word with the accent. But there's some where they found a clever way to say it, but then like the parts of it, mean something else related.
That's
But
neat.
anyways,
This was a tangent about South Park and Japan. Thank you very much. Anyways, baseball 4 out of 6. Moving on to golf. What is
oh
good
hell
about
yeah.
Wii Golf? How familiar are you with Wii Golf? I feel like this is one of the ones that maybe didn't transcend as much.
For some reason, I got a lot of Wii golf in. I've had a good time with it.
Likewise.
Jojo and I have done a round of Wii golf in our apartment. Um, I like it. It's all right. It's a golf game. I've played better golf games, but this one you swing it, so that makes it good.
Another thing with the audio design that I think makes it really good is when you swing too hard or sideways, it does that little rubbery stretching noise with the
Oh
meter.
yeah, and the
If you know,
meter
you
goes all
know.
crazy.
Here, I'm going to play it right here. Oh, it's so good.
Hmm.
It's so good.
You're making so much work for yourself, by the way.
Oh my gosh. Also, the sound effect of the ball hitting the hole. Oh, so good.
Oh
So good.
man.
Look at that noise. Also, they do the thing with the crowd here, and I think it really amplifies it and makes golf more interesting. The ah.
Yes.
It's the sound design is so good. The way they handle the water hazards and the courses. Personally, I would like to see a few more, but I'm not really going to complain about that seriously. But it's a solid golf experience, and in my opinion, it's the best golf game on the Wii.
Hmm. That's a strong opinion. I haven't
Between
played
that
enough
and Wii
golf
Sports
games to
Resort.
refute that, so I'm gonna agree with you.
I appreciate that. But yeah, between Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort, there's enough golf on the Wii. If you're rating, what makes golf bad? What do you think they could do to make golf better? Other than
Man,
a Japanese announcer.
I think the actual mechanics itself are fine. More fun courses. They could have gone crazy with it if they wanted to, but they just made realistic, grounded courses. If we had Wii Golf again, but it was like a giant mini golf course with tons of hazards and fire and like dinosaurs, I think that would have been great.
I agree with you 100%, but I cannot picture Nintendo doing that with their golf simulator. They'll leave that stuff to
Mhm.
Mario Golf, which they've stopped doing in the more recent games, which makes me sad.
Aren't they? Didn't they do a recent Mario Golf?
Yeah, and it's just boring golf courses with a couple Mario things here and
Oh,
there.
really?
Yeah. I haven't actually played it, Mario Golf Super Rush, for those of you who are wondering, but I've heard they didn't get as whimsical with the designs as many people would like.
I remember a lot of
Compared
hype
to like
about that.
Toadstool Tour was like a big deal. Haven't played that one either.
Is Mario Strikers out yet?
Yes, the new Mario Strikers is out. The reviews are good for a Mario sports game.
Gotta play that soon.
Unfortunately, there is no soccer in this game, but we're back on golf for just a second. If you're rating it out of 9,
Hmm. Out of
what is it?
nine,
What does it get?
6 out of 9,
You
69.
can't. Six out of 9 is not allowed.
What?
So
Um,
between 1 and 5, and then 7 and 9, you can go any of those numbers.
1 to 5, how good is it? Out of 9, 5.
Okay, fair. 1 to 5 out of 9, 5. All right, so I would not give it that good of a score. I think it's still a good experience, but like you said, it just feels. I don't want to say bland, but because golf is bland, and for what they're doing a good job of it. I would
Hmm.
give it a 7 out of 9.
7 out
I
of
think
9.
it's
All right.
I think it's good, not great, but that's because I'm not a big golf guy in the first place. And let's round this discussion of the individual sports out with boxing. Now,
Oh
I've
yeah.
got some things to say about boxing, but first things first, what did they do right?
Who's the Wii character who's really good at sports?
Matt.
Matt. They did that right. They just threw in Muhammad Ali. They were ready for us to get beat down. Um, I think the energy in it is totally right. I remember as a kid playing the boxing games, and we would all actually be tired by the end of it.
Oh, yeah. If you weren't panting and sweating by the end of 2 boxing matches, there was something wrong with
Yeah,
you.
you weren't playing it right, and you were probably that's what they did. They made it so that whoever is putting in more effort is going to win. So it just makes everybody put in max effort the whole time.
It's so good. It's so good. And I think another thing with the audio design and also some of the graphic design here, I think they did a really good job at nailing what they were going for and making it feel as immersive as they possibly could. Because
Hmm.
with that speaker in the Wiimote, you get the sound effect of a punch coming in really, really hard, and like the sound of it connecting. Like they do that
Yeah.
thing like the New Super Mario Wii, where when you get killed, the game slows down a little bit. When you land a sick punch, the game slows down a little bit, and it's awesome the way that they handle it all and the way they do the health meter with the circle, the pie slices. I think that's really good. But the only
Hmm.
thing I have a gripe with about boxing, I'll say, is that it doesn't necessarily feel as much like boxing as it does flailing the thing and seeing which boxer wins. It feels more like you're cranking a box to see who's jack in the box is going to pop out first, as opposed to like punching, you know?
You're totally right. It, it's not as strategic as I think real boxing is. They didn't reflect that.
Yeah, I think you can block, but did you ever block? Listeners at home, don't lie to yourself. Did you ever block in Wii Boxing? No, you didn't. If you did, you're weird.
Oh no, dude, blocking was kind of a fun troll though, because if you ever have friends who are going at it like way too hard, sometimes you could put the block up and none of their hits would hit. So then they would just tire themselves up. And then that's when
Cody,
you
you're
come
lying.
in.
You're lying. You never blocked.
I'm
Okay,
dropping this
so I mean,
call.
okay. I will say that with the immersion in boxing, I think they did really good at making it feel like you're in a boxing ring with the sound effects and the audio design. They do a
Yeah.
really, really good job, and the visual of being in that boxing ring is amazing. I just don't think the sport itself is as immersive as it could be. Therefore, if I'm rating it out of 32, I think it's only getting like a 25. 23. You can only use
23 out of
odd numbers in this
32.
rating.
If I were to rank it out of 11, it would get a 7. 7-11.
Let's get a Slurpee and move on.
Hey, nice.
So there you go. There you have it on all of our independent sports knowledge there. There were a couple things I wanted to talk on just before we get out of here. We are coming close on
Uh-huh.
time. We'll get you guys out of here, move on with your days in a little bit. But first, I want to talk about 1-2 Switch, which was kind of like, oh, this is going to be Wii Sports for this console. Have you played 1-2 Switch on the Switch?
I have, and it was kind of marketed as the next Wii Sports. It was like, the new console's coming out. This one, we promise, it's going to be better than Wii U. It's even got a party game, just like the Wii, right, guys? And then once it came out, I played 1-2 Switch a couple times with friends, and it was a ton of fun those first couple times. But then you run out of games really fast, and you try to replay the game, and you realize that it's actually not that replayable. I don't know. Once you've done the game a couple times, you've had your fill.
You're
Something about it
100% right.
just isn't as replayable.
It doesn't have an infinite replay value as Wii Sports does.
Hmm.
Instead, it's you experience everything once and you've experienced it, which kind of led to its downfall. Alongside it being $50 and not packed in, I think if 1-2 Switch was a pack-in game, it would be much more popular. But obviously, it's still not good. It's what we were talking about earlier when we were saying, like, not every pack-in game is good. Obviously, would have shipped more units, probably wouldn't have made as much profits, but people would know what 1-2 Switch is. Whereas now, I feel like most Switch owners don't even know it exists.
And you know what? It's not as casual as Wii Sports because from when I played it, you had to keep track of the teams, you had to keep track of who was going up against who. And once you did, it was so much more focused than Wii Sports, where Wii Sports, you can get as involved as you want. But with 1-2 Switch, a lot of the games were reaction based. So
Mhm.
instead of being in a party and playing this, suddenly you had to like drown the party out to focus on winning the game, which I
Sounds like
just
a
don't
lot
think
of
is as fun.
thinking. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of thinking, and me having a cork brain being a baseball head,
Hmm.
it doesn't necessarily bode too well with me. It's something you really have to kind of get in. Whereas I think they should have just released Switch Sports from the get go instead of waiting till 5 years into the lifespan to release Switch Sports when they could have just done it with the Wii. Although I see why they didn't. They wanted to make it more of a tech demo than Switch Sports, which I think they handled the release for all wrong.
Wait, they made a they did a Wii Sports for the Switch?
Well, they didn't do Wii Sports. They did Switch Sports. Google Switch Sports right now
Switch
and look at the
Sports.
cover art. You're going to hate it.
Did they actually like is it I was going to say like Wii Sports was so good they just should put it into the Switch. So they did that?
They made a version of Wii Sports. They tried to modernize it. I think it's all right.
I'm looking this up.
The bowling is still there. It's good. They took out baseball. They added in soccer. They haven't released golf yet, I don't think. They're doing that thing where they're drip feeding DLC. So if you're listening to this in 6, 7, 8 months, whenever you're listening, how's the golf? Comment. Let us know. Leave a review. All
Oh,
that
no
stuff.
way. They actually did make Wii Sports for the Switch.
Yeah, they
What?
took all the best stuff from like Wii Sports Resort and Wii Sports and put it in a game.
And this is
And
newer too. I've never heard of this.
yeah, it came out like this year. It came out sometime middle of 2022.
And they're not Mii's. Well, they are, but they're like
You
full
can use your
body.
Me,
They're
but
full body Mii's, and they don't look cartoony enough.
yeah, I don't like the art style personally. Probably why they didn't market it too well. But yeah,
Wow.
Nintendo, you had a gold mine here and you just kind of stopped mining halfway through and said, hey, we've got this other gold mine right next to it that we haven't started digging in yet and we don't know what's in there, but we're going to start digging.
It somehow looks worse than Wii Sports. Like some of the graphics are updated, but the visual style isn't there. Rather than looking like, Wii Sports had such a specific style to it that it was okay if the graphics weren't great because it was like meant to look like that. This game looks like they tried to go for something more hi-fi and just
Hmm.
it didn't work.
Yeah, they should have done Wii Sports HD for the Switch, but they didn't.
One of the few
Anyways,
games where they could literally just re-release it and no one would be upset.
they could have. They really, really could have. But we are close on time. I don't want this to go over an hour as much as I like talking to you.
Yeah,
But
for
you're
Wii
coming over
Sports.
later and we're playing Wii Sports, so deal with it, folks. That's going to be it for this week's edition of the Analog Sticks podcast. For myself and my good friend Cody, thank you all very much for listening. Don't forget to rate, review, like, comment, follow, subscribe, whatever it is. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. Whatever changes we can make, reach out to us on Twitter at AnalogSticks. Still haven't made an email. May do that someday. Don't hold me to it. Thank you all very much for listening. We will see you next week. Cody, closing remarks?
Goodbye. Don't get
Goodbye.
hurt.
Bye.
See ya.